It's time for VB MMA picks for UFC 304 on Saturday, July 27th. Edwards versus Muhammad 2 from the brand new Co-op Live Arena in Manchester, England. VB, we preview the main event this week, the rematch between Edwards and Muhammad. We don't know. Well, we maybe knew it was going to happen. Maybe we didn't, but we know we didn't get a decision the first time around. We brought Liam in this week. VB, how you doing? We got a nice card finally here.
Yeah, I mean, I really like this card. Pay-per-views are a little bit tougher usually, but I think this card is. I mean, honestly, I like so many spots. It's kind of I'm getting lost in a way. So right now, I took my money lines and waiting for props to come out, but I really like how it's looking. And um, you know, last week we had decent reads, but overall not another week. So I hope I can get it going. And I had like a good guest. This guy talks fights all week, all month, all year. He's very good at breaking fights down, so I had to bring him here, and I want to thank you for joining. So welcome, man.
Absolutely, brother. It's my pleasure. And I think that it's kind of been a weird few weeks of MMA, some weird outcomes. So I was on a little bit of a rough run. Finally got my foot back in the right direction last week and hoping to just keep the ball rolling into this week. I always look back at my previous results on the fighters that I'm betting on the card coming up, and I've done a little bit better on these fighters in some of the past couple of weeks. So excited about those prospects, and hopefully we can keep it going, man. A lot of big plus money as well, and that's always what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and I can't get enough of these guys. If I'm not hanging out here with them, previewing fights, I'm hanging out with VB in the spaces during the fight, or I'm hanging out with Liam in the PSR chat on Saturday nights. So I'm used to these guys. We'll preview the main event with Edwards and Muhammad. Of course, there is another championship fight on Saturday night, but we'll preview two other fights here. Let's get the show rolling right now and start here, Liam, with featherweights here. 30-year-old Arnold Allen from Suffolk, out of Felixstowe, England right now, the number 6 ranked contender in the featherweight division. He's 19-3. 10-2 in the UFC. He's lost consecutive bouts now to Holloway and to Evloev. Last out by unanimous decision. Both were by unanimous decision, by the way. The last fight, though, was back in January. It was a $1.60 dog in that one to Evloev, going up against Chikadze, the Georgian native, 35 years old, fighting out of Huntington Beach. I guess you can't have more of a contrast than that. The number 10th ranked contender in the featherweight division by the UFC, bounced back from that first UFC loss to defeat Caceres by unanimous decision as a considerable 240 favorite last August. I should note, Liam, I'm sure you'll tell me about Chikadze. Spent more time on the shelf than training lately. He was supposed to fight Emmett last December, but had that awful groin injury in training, Liam. We've got featherweights here to start off. We're right into the main card here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Arnold Allen, if you look back, his last fight on a UFC main card, he's taking on Movsar Evloev, a top guy in the division. And, the thing that's a little disappointing, I feel, about that fight for Arnold looking back at it is just that, he's starting to get outdone in a couple different phases, right? It's one thing if Movsar goes out there, he out wrestles you, he takes you down. But Movsar almost knocked him out, right? And I do think Movsar is a great fighter, but in round 2, he had him on ice skates, he had him wobbling, he had him rocked, his eye was messed up. And I just rewatched this fight today to give myself a fresh perspective. And, Allen took a lot of damage facially in that fight, even from the outset. He was hitting, jabs, overhands, double right hands, Movsar Evloev, just walking him down. And, we all respect Movsar, but a lot of the time he's out there wrestling, grappling nonstop. And Arnold Allen's got a pretty good counter game. He was able to work back to his feet. He was able to use the ninja choke to threaten. But ultimately, when that ninja choke wasn't working, then he was just stuck out at range for a lot of the fight, and he had some success. But they noted on commentary he was missing a lot. He was throwing a lot and missing a lot. And I think a guy like Giga Chikadze, he's there to be hit, but he's also a guy that's going to throw back, right? He's going to take his shots. He's going to take one to give one. Even against Calvin Kattar, I mean, he took what is, I think, inarguably a life-changing beating there. He took a long time off from fighting as well as a result. I bet Calvin Kattar plus 200 there, but I also had the ITD plus 400. And I got to just say, Giga Chikadze is insanely tough, right? Because most people quit in the second round of that fight. much less make it to the final bell, keep fighting back. He landed a ton of his own strikes. So I think of Giga Chikadze as a live underdog in this spot. He's 35 years of age. He's a little bit up there. So I just don't want to get behind a guy in Arnold Allen who's off 2 straight losses against, granted, the best guys in the division. Great guys, great fighters. However, I'm just saying to myself, is he fighting these guys to a huge margin, even in his wins? Not really. A lot of these fights were close decisions. He beats Dan Hooker, who never should have been at 145. A couple of these weird fights. And I think he had a great win streak. He had a great run. But ultimately, it hasn't aged that well in terms of some of the wins on the run. And then when I'm looking at Giga Chikadze, on the other side, he basically needs to win right now or his career is kind of just at a stall, right? It's like he needs to be in the contention right now at 35 or it's not going to work out for him, I feel. So I think that we're going to see whatever we have left of Giga Chikadze. He's going to try and leave inside the octagon. We know how tough he is, but I think that there's a chance that Allen could submit him. I think he's much better on the ground. His jiu-jitsu is phenomenal. I mentioned already that ninja choke series. I think that's his best move. I would not be surprised if we see Giga tapping to a ninja choke this weekend, but I basically feel that if Arnold Allen does not take this fight to the ground, he's going to give Giga Chikadze a fair chance to win. And when you're getting a guy at over 2-1 odds, who's mostly been favored throughout his UFC run as an underdog, he's never lost in the UFC. I think that's something that you have to take note of. Arnold Allen's performed ably as a favorite. He hasn't lost in that role either, but the rubber's got to meet the road. And all I know is I got 2 guys with a great trend. And, the ROI potential on one of them is massive. And the ROI potential on the other one, I got to lay out a lot of money to get some back. So that's just for me a dogger pass situation on the fundamentals.
I see a lot of comments. Some people agree with Liam. Some we see George. What's up, George? Dixon is always here, my man. Yeah. So Liam likes Giga. Yeah. I want to ask Liam something. Like, Liam, do you have some kind of trends that you follow usually? Like, let's say somebody's a good grappler and you bet him by submission or against one-dimensional fighter or something like that, or I don't know, like somebody's not a finisher and you bet him by decision most of the time. But if they start to finish people, then the decision line kind of gets wacky, and you know what I mean.
The job of a handicapper is trying to determine the right price. So, right, guys?
You try to be contrarian. You said.
Not on purpose, but just like in my way of thinking, I feel like a lot of people approach fights and they look at like, what is the most likely outcome? And that becomes like a tunnel vision. Like that is the outcome. Like, of course that's going to happen. And I always just think of, well, what could happen? I try and give myself an idea of all the different ways that a fight could go and then extract value. Because when it comes to big favorite prices, I know people that make money betting on MMA, that lay favorite prices, that bet 2-leg parlays, things like this. It's just not my style. I've tried that. I didn't do very well at it. It wasn't for me. But what I am good at is being a contrarian, looking at, hey, could this guy have a reasonable path as an underdog? And I look at a guy like Giga Chikadze. Has he fought top guys in the division? Yeah. Has he fared mostly well? Yeah. Even that fight where Calvin Kattar beat him within an inch of his life, you look at the box score, you look at the stats, you're like, wow, he still went out there and competed. And he never gave up on himself over 5 rounds with a cut like this all through his face. I just think that when you're dealing with a guy like that, that the heart is there, the will is there. I think the biggest gap is skill in the grappling. So, okay, maybe Arnold Allen can exploit this one leverage point. I could look at Arnold Allen, a minus 250 favorite via submission at plus 500, plus 600, 700. And I'm like, okay, now I open up an ROI potential on a guy who's supposed to win the fight. Whereas if I'm just going into it like, I think Arnold Allen should win the fight, 70% of the time, well, then there's simply no value at minus 250. I just have to wash my hands of the fight and move on.
Were you asking at VB because there are some fighters that just have some fighters will not have the ultimate potential, right? Maybe when they become more elite, they obviously have more skills, but maybe lower rated fighters might not even have something in particular in their arsenal, so to speak.
Yeah, Raymond. So I was asking Liam because, like, I remember even now, like a couple months ago when I had you on my show, Liam, you told me like sometimes occasion matters a lot. Like this guy's from Brazil, he's fighting in his hometown, and it's a rematch. It's different. You know what I mean? I think we had like similar bet there. We both hit. I think it was some kind of underdog. I forgot, but like here, like where I look at this fight is like, I mean, they're giving Allen, step down in his hometown, in his home country. And guy who can't really wrestle well, guy who has been stabbed by a doctor, back in the Contender Series guy. The guy Ostersberger is a doctor, right now. And he took Gigas back and choked him out. You know what I mean? And Arnold Allen has wins over like good grapplers by submission, like Mats Barnell, for example. It was a comeback win, but still, Mats Barnell, I don't think, has been stopped since then, So it's really hard to just like justify Giga line. And also, like, I asked you about trends. Sometimes fighter keeps winning decision. I asked you, would you better buy a knockout to be contrarian and stuff like that? You know what I mean? And sometimes that's your style, So I also like that kind of thinking, But like my system, like my trend, which I always follow and has been probably the most profitable for me, is like when somebody's fighting for their job or they desperately need a win. You know what I mean? And Arnold Allen possibly could be fighting for his job right now. Guy has 2 losses. He doesn't want to lose 3 in a row, 4 in a row. You know what I mean? He's still not very well-known name. He may get sent to PFL or something. So I think UFC trying to get him a win. I think he has 2 losses. He lost to Mozart Evloev 29-28, and he lost to Holloway 48-47. He had 2 very close fights against elite of the elite fighters, and now he's fighting Giga, who 35 years old, coming off an injury. Last fight, he kind of got pretty hard against Caceres in round 3. He was, Caceres had his hand broken. He was kind of tired too. And he was kind of damaged, so he couldn't really capitalize. But Giga was tired, I don't know he's gonna be there. He's gonna keep pushing. He has a lot of round 3 finishes. He wins round 3 in some of these fights, So but I look at it as like a bounce back kind of spot for Aaron Allen. I took him by sub. Maybe you liked it, Liam, with me, because Giga again is not the hardest guy to stop. He's not. So
my favorite look on the Allen side by far. And I had that's my instinct for what this fight will look like in the end. Is Arnold Allen is an ass puller of the highest order. In round 3, he just shoves people's head in the ninja choke. He almost did it to Movsar, who's impossible to choke. So I think that was, for me, like an indication. Arnold Allen can sub anybody. To your point, Mats Burnell, that's my favorite Arnold Allen performance in the UFC. He was having a lot of really tough competitive minutes there. And when it mattered, he found the finish. I would not be surprised if he did that on Saturday. But if I'm on the Allen side, I'm looking at the sub. I'm looking at round three or decision, those kind of angles. I think you've hit on the analysis just to get off the big chalk price. Because the downside risk, I feel, is just Movsar Evloev had him on ice skates in round 2. He hasn't done that to many people. So I just worry, is Arnold Allen, because of all these crazy fun fights he's been in, striking on the feet, even that Dan Hooker fight that I acknowledge maybe shouldn't have been made because Dan Hooker has no business at 145. Dan was landing a couple clean shots there and busted up his face as well in that fight. So I just think Arnold invites a lot of risk. At home in England, I think he's going to be feeling himself, putting a lot out there, but he's kind of got that hands down, like lean forward style. And he got hit with a lot of body kicks as well against Movsar Evloev. So I think Giga Chikadze and Kings MMA, they're going to be hip to that. How do you feel about the under, if you don't mind me posing a question back to you, VB? Because I had thought about, maybe getting off of a side entirely, taking the plus money on the fight doesn't go the distance, and praying that one of these guys is looking for a breakout performance to get a title shot at featherweight, and they're going to go out there and look for the finish. I think both guys have the skills, the opportunities, and the liabilities to make that happen.
Yeah, plus 170 is doesn't go. I really think doesn't go hits if Allen gets a stop. That's like most likely outcome if fight ends inside the distance. Giga took some of the worst like beating I've ever seen in my life against Cater. He didn't quit, So
no, that was a great fight. It was a unanimous decision, and he was a big favorite in that one though. VB.
Yeah, I know, but he's still like 1-4-5. I was like worried for his health, like is this guy still there, right now. So yeah, he took like a really bad damage, and me seeing Aaron Allen getting a TKO is kind of tough in this kind of fight. Aaron Allen likes to cage push. He likes to, sometimes take risks, but I think Giga will probably, use his footwork or something. But as far as like sub goes, I think that's the way it finishes. Giga knocking out Allen with a head kick or something is possible, but not very highly likely outcome. So if I was betting the under, I would prefer sub on Allen personally. At plus 700-800, whatever it is. But you gotta wait for other books to open the line though, because BetOnline sub line got smoked. So yeah, I like Allen sub quite a lot. I think Giga's grappling is very, very bad. His submission defense is probably even worse. And guy like Allen who has good front choke series, like Liam showed, I think he can use some of that and sub Giga here. And um, also like imagine if in round 3, Liam, that's Giga in that choke, not Mozart. Giga is not making out of the
That's
choke. You know
wraps.
what I mean? Like Mozart Evil have almost tapped at some point in the choke, and Mozart never, like, it's so hard to sub. Like Nick Lance had like 25 guillotines on him and God didn't flinch. So he's hard to sub, and like Arnold was really close stabbing that kind of grappler, who is stud honestly on the ground. So Giga, who is like I'm not sure he's even a proper bet right now in BJJ. So like, you know what I mean? If Arnold cinches up something here, he's gonna tap him in my opinion, pretty easily.
Right, so it's Allen for VB. VB, a couple guys posted some questions. I don't know if you mentioned it or alluded to it, but Dixon had asked which of these guys would be a volume puncher or have a volume advantage, and Cody wanted to know, will Allen be cautious given the spot he's in? I imagine meaning he is in a precarious spot, as you mentioned,
Yeah,
with his career on the line in the promotion.
that's good. That's a good question, and that's why I think the sub is more possible. Here's the thing: like, guy needs a win, right? He lost 2 in a row. Doesn't want to lose 3, 4 in a row in the UFC in general. So anybody who can grapple here is Allen, right? We can agree on that. Like, Giga is not gonna shoot for a takedown. So if Allen has a path to a grappling, which is a safer path, in general in MMA, like, why can't he take his back also? Why can't he take him down? Why can't he get arm triangle or something? Why can't he get rear naked choke? You know what I mean? Like, it opens a lot of possibilities in my opinion. And Giga is still very unknown, like, on the ground. Like, he's fighting Cater. Cater is a boxer, right? Like, he's fighting freaking Edson Barboza, kickboxer, Cobb Swanson, boxer. Jamie Simmons, I don't know. Omar Morales, boxer. So like, all these guys are not wrestlers. Like, last time he fought a wrestler, he was like probably Jamal Edwards kind of wrestle in a way, and it was a split decision. So even Brandon Davis has some jiu-jitsu, split decision. So I think Allen is live to get a stop here, and I hope they get better lines on the other books, because I mean I went almost a full unit on the stop, Liam. Like, I usually don't go full unit on the stop, but I had to do it here. So you guys think about it too. There's a path.
Shout out to Bad MMA Math. I'd take a chance on any of his hunches. All right, let's roll with it. If you're done with this one, guys, let's get into our next bout. We're in the main card here. Next right up, let's get into middleweights with Gloucester-born Christian Leroy Duncan, the 29-year-old, is 10-1, 3-1 in the UFC. VB, I'm pretty sure we've been here together 3 years now. I'm pretty sure we've previewed every one of CLD's fights, so maybe you have an affinity for him. I don't know, but he's won 2 straight, including the round 2 knockout of Ribeiro back in March. He was a 325 or so favorite in that one. He was to face Brisek here, who had to withdraw with an injury. So up comes Gregory Rodrigues, 15-5, 6-2 in the UFC. The former LFA champ has won 2 straight by knockout, including a round 3 win over Tavares back in February, and he was a 250 favorite in that one. VB, we've got middleweights here.
Raymond, we only, like, I think we started like 2022. I could be wrong, but not only we are breaking down still the UFC fights. I think we broke down Cage Warriors fights. Duncan had that. Max been 3 times.
This is my favorite guy. Obviously, we've done it.
Yeah. So we were talking about Duncan when he was in Cage Warriors. I always liked him. His footwork, his creative, like, striking is pretty good to watch. And I think he's the like, when he was in Cage Warriors, he was the fighter who I bet the most times as a regional fighter. Max bet. I never had more max bets than anybody than on Duncan where he was in Cage Warriors. So I like the guy. I like his striking. He's very fluid on his feet. He's pretty, hard to hit. He's kind of not very good defensively as far as the leg kicks go. Like, Armor Petrosian kind of chopped his leg up, pretty bad. He does that, like, he kind of moves away from a kick instead of defending or checking the kick. So he sometimes still gets hit by those kicks. But usually, like, Duncan is the one moving. It's a big cage here, Gregory Rodrigues is going to walk like a zombie. He's going to take everything until he can't. So I think Duncan is the side here because of footwork, If this was a small cage in Apex, I think it's kind of different. Like, honestly, I think Duncan doesn't have a space there. and Rodriguez is gonna walk you down and land some bombs, and one can knock you out. So I think Rodriguez is the side in Apex, and this bigger cage is Duncan. Honestly, you know what I mean? Like what Rodriguez did to Tavares in Apex was pretty brutal. You know what I mean? Tavares got destroyed in that fight in round 3. Like early, he was doing pretty well, and like way Rodriguez fights, like how vicious he is, how hard he hits, he throws everything into every shot. You don't want to be eating shots by Rodriguez, especially when you're tired. You're gonna get knocked out. Iron Total found out the same way. If you are tired and you are banging with Rodriguez, he's almost always gonna have more power than you. But early, he's kind of defensively kind of irresponsible. His chin is way up in the air. In round 1, it's always more likely to knock Rodriguez out. So he got knocked out by Jordan Williams. He got knocked out by Bruno. So I think he can be early like knocked out. But as the fight goes on, I think he may take over. But I still think Duncan's cardio and his like footwork is really good. And I think Duncan is gonna be more like creative. So Duncan by decision is kind of one I lean. It's like a pretty crazy price. It's not easy to, be there for three rounds with Rodriguez. He's gonna be coming at you. If he's down 2 rounds, he's gonna come out in the third. Like he needs it. I mean, guy almost got his face literally split open in that fight, and he was still fighting in round 2 and finished Chidi. And I bet him in that fight. I was like, there is no way that fight is gonna go on. There is no way Doctor is not gonna stop the fight. That's one of the worst cuts I've ever seen. You could see a nerve of the guy or something in his forehead. It was
Dude, I'm a fight fan. I couldn't even look at that. It's disgusting.
It was like split open, like it looked like a crocodile or something. It was crazy, and I was like, man, please stop this fight. I love my money, but I mean, if this guy gets hurt here, you know what I mean? Like they didn't stop the fight. I was like, okay, and the guy goes out in round 2. Chidi is always death casting now. That's like same story, and takes him down and smashes him.
Cardio.
Yeah. So again, guy is tough. He's gonna fight for your money, but sometimes his chin just gives up on him. And CLD is gonna have a lot of chances to crack that chin in this fight. He's a big cage. He's gonna be creative. I'm gonna always probably bet CLD outside of top 15 if he's fighting. In big cage. It's just hard to fight him. So I like CLD here. Grappling is, I think, closer than people think. People are like making out like Grigory's gonna wrestle here and get a stab. I don't think it's gonna be easy to get a stab on CLD. So give me CLD, but I'm just taking the money line here. I don't want to go with decision, even though that's how I lean. But if it's a knockout, I still want to make money. So CLD minus 125, minus 130 is still good. I think he should be a little bit bigger favorite here. Grigory is still like kind of one-dimensional. He's just very strong guy who moves forward and kind of takes one to give one. Sometimes he knocks people out. Sometimes he's the one knocked out. So he's kind of average, overall. And Duncan is just fluid. He's, good footwork, very like creative striker. He has flying knockouts and stuff. You'll never see Grigory Rodriguez flying anybody, So like, I like Duncan here to be like more, kind of like he's a puzzle, compared to Rodriguez. And Rodriguez, I don't think has solved the puzzle. Like he's just gonna walk forward like a zombie, eat shots. So give me Duncan. And we have like all 3 main card fights here, on this show. We didn't pre-game prelims. Some good fights here to break down.
Appreciate that,
Absolutely.
BB. Liam, you got Rodriguez here, the Brazilian. Go ahead.
So listen, I think this is a really tricky fight. I would want to watch a little bit more tape before I have a fully ironed out opinion on this one. I wanted to get early research done for my guy VB so I could have something to report on the show. Now, I did watch CLD's fight back with Armen Petrosyan. Reason being, it's a common opponent between these 2 guys. I actually bet Armen Petrosyan against Gregory Rodriguez. I've had a really good record on RoboCop fights over time. And, I'm mostly just looking at plus money, right? Against Bruno Ferreira, you kind of just see the limitations of RoboCop's style. He comes out there, he takes a lot of risks, he's willing to swang and bang, he can get hurt on the feet as a result. And I do think that's a big danger against somebody like Christian Leroy Duncan, younger guy, faster, longer guy. He can hit him from further away. the things that I was a little bit concerned about coming out of the Petrosian fight on the CLD side would just be the fact he was giving up some pretty easy takedowns, I felt like, throughout the course of that fight, especially later on. Like when the fight was kind of hanging in the balance, I felt like it was anybody's fight, about 90 seconds left on the clock. He gets taken down, and I was like, man, that's just not a great look for me to be stuck on your back and guard, playing it out with Armen Petrosian, who is not a bad grappler, but there's nothing sensational about his grappling ability. Most of it's defensive, I would say, in nature. And, he was getting busted up in some of the exchanges on the feet. No doubt about that. He was starting to slow down a little bit. He's got that big muscle back, kind of like G-Rod. But then you just see the fact he's able to just switch phases, go to the takedown. I don't think that Gregory Rodrigues is a very smart fighter. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but just he's a jiu-jitsu world champion. He goes out there. You never see him use it. You never know that by watching him fight. He's like, I'd rather just trade hands. And you listen to his interview, you know why. He's like, knocking people out is so fun. Like, I'd just rather take a risk. I'm like, okay, that's why you've never gotten 3 UFC wins in a row, right? So it's like there's the pros and the cons of Gregory's style. I do think he's live to win the fight because he's dangerous in every phase, right? He can knock somebody out on the feet. Jun Young Park had him as good as dead on the feet, and then he just threw back a right hand while he looked like he was out on his feet and knocked him, backwards into the cage, recovers, wins the fight. He's kind of that kind of weirdo. He always finds that second gear. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Y'all do your own research, but the guy just seems to have an ability to recover, that exceeds normal human capacities. Like his face is showing, a whole missing section, and he's just like, keep going. I didn't hear no bell. So I feel like I don't know how to anticipate this fight going. I feel like if it goes the distance, CLD wins the fight. I feel like if it ends inside the distance, it's a lot more of a toss-up as to who wins this one. Because I do think, even though he was able to, make it to the scorecards there, I think part of that conservative decision-making in round 3 was because he almost got knocked out in round 2. He was hurt badly on the feet. He started forcing the wrestling and grappling exchanges. And then he pulled Armen Petrosian on top of him for that first takedown because he was going for such a desperate attempt. And I think if you do that shit against G-Rod, you're going to get finished on the ground. Because even though he's not going to go for his technical jiu-jitsu, if y'all have seen this guy go for ground and pound on the mat, it's disgusting. He's putting elbows through the mat. So, I just think for CLD, the floor is lava. Keep this fight upright, keep distance, you win the fight. But if he doesn't do that, the fight's going to get dicey fast, I feel.
So your pick is Rodrigues, right? Overall.
I honestly don't have a strong money line take on this one. I think the winning condition is correlated with CLD in the over, G-Rod in the under, personally. But I do think that CLD can win by knockout in round 1. G-Rod has been shin like 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean. So,
all right. Appreciate it, guys.
Would it be different, Liam, if it was in Apex? What you think? It would be easier for you to compare Rodrigues in an Apex, in a small cage where...
Yes, definitely. Also, because his style then would just encourage more exchanges, like crazy exchanges, and he does have a lot of power in his hands. And also, it sets up takedowns. But I think that with space to work, it probably does favor CLD. Also, he's going to have the crowd behind him. I think that is favorable for decision equity.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get to the main event in just a moment. VB mentioned also, we got 2 championship bouts this week, of course, with Blades and Aspinall as well, but we'll preview the main event here with Edwards and Muhammad in just a moment. Every week we preview and talk about hitting up VB for his premium picks, but did you know that you can get VB's, he was talking about his Cage Warriors and these other promotions, you can get these picks for free over at BetMMA.tips. VB goes over all the other promotions, the non-elite promotions, if you will, each week with some very strong results. And VB, I just want to make note this week, highlight the card this week of Cage Warriors, 6 units of profit, highlighted by the easiest win, the easiest max bet in VB MMA picks history. I saw it for myself on XVB when you had Riri Hudson. How long was that fight, BB? 17 seconds?
No, 13. Oh, yeah, there was a max over there. Yep. Yeah, I think, people don't like to hear this, but UFC is getting harder and harder to bet, and make as much as I, used to make. It doesn't mean I can make money in the UFC, but these other promotions are just extra income we can be making, and I don't see why people wouldn't be telling. So, Cage Warriors is not in promotion, you can't really bet on domestics either. You can bet it on DraftKings and others. So even like most of these fighters on this card are from Cage Warriors. You know what I mean? So I really like this promotion, and for betting, like especially for unders, there are a lot of mismatches there, and it's one of my favorite promotions to bet, and you should be tailing it. Some other promotions are also on Bet MMA, as pretty much mentioned, all free. So check it out. As far as UFC goes, again, last couple has been bad, but it's just how it goes sometimes. You know, regionals have been doing well, so I'm still up 50 or 60 units this year, so I'm pretty happy about it. You know what I mean? And UFC is gonna get better. Just give it time. It's not easy to make. Like Becky and Day, like 2-3 props were so much better. You know what I mean? All these markets are so much sharper right now. There are some markets that are not this sharp yet, but it's gonna get there. So you really need to dig deep in the UFC, and probably these kind of cards whereas like on prelims you have like Shona Bennett versus Alice and stuff like those fights are probably better to bet than Muhammad versus Edwards, where in my opinion line is almost perfect. So I think you gotta look deeper into the UFC to make money, and I did all my best to do that this week. So I hope I do it well, and if not, again, I mean, all these other promotions are free, and you should tail them.
I know,
Um,
I know, BB. I feel like once the main card rolls around with your premiums on UFC, it's like a breather. Where you got me going on some of these early cards. Man, you got some great. I'm making picks as fast as the fights can go off sometimes with
yeah,
the early action. I'm betting in the morning. UFC. I mean, other promotions.
yeah. So yeah, definitely check my but anyway, it's free most of this leagues. Also this week I mentioned I'm so confident with this card like this week that if I lose, you're gonna get the rest of the year for free. So that's my offer. So maybe check it out. Link is in the description. And I think Liam had enough of me talking about my betting. So let's talk about main event now.
All right, let's do it. Let's get into the main event with Leon Edwards here, the current welterweight champion, the 30-year-old Jamaican. Of course, he fights out of Birmingham. Here he's 22-3, 14-2 in the UFC with a no contest. We'll talk about it. We've talked about it. You guys know about it. Of course, he hasn't lost since December of 2015 against Usman. He came back to beat him twice as well, and he beat Covington last December by unanimous decision as a minus 160 favorite. Liam is the headliner at 296, so he'll be up here against 36-year-old Bilal Muhammad from Chicago, 23-3, 14-3 in the UFC's won 9 straight, including the win over Cejudo as the headliner at 288. He was a 125 dog in that one. And of course, I say he's won 9 straight. Of course, these two met in March of 2021. It ended in a no contest, of course, an accidental eye poke. Muhammad could not continue. So we'll see what happens here. You'll remind us what was going on, if it's a continuation or are we starting from scratch, Liam?
This is a fascinating fight. I always like to own the wins, celebrate them, but then I own the losses as well. And I've really struggled on capping Bilal Muhammad fights, right? For a long time, I just wasn't very high on the guy. I just thought athletically he had a ceiling, and there was a lot of other welterweights that I thought were a little bit further ahead. But he's kind of proven me wrong a few times, closed the gap, certainly. And when I look back, I think about Bilal Muhammad and Vicente Luque, right? They ran it one time. Vicente Luque absolutely smashed him. And then you see they run it back again. And I expected a pretty similar result. And that was like the undoing of Vicente Luque, right? He just got audited in every phase. Bilal Muhammad switched stances and he was like, all right, fight me now. Couldn't do it. And it just showed that he's a student of the sport and he changed when he needed to change to win the fight. And that's the kind of thing that you're leading into a rematch, right? You see a guy that everybody that I know now respects, Leon Edwards. By the way, 2 years ago, they told me I was an idiot because I said he could go out there and beat Kamaru Usman. I said he could take him down. I said he could out wrestle him. And people were like, no chance. What are you, a fool? Then you see what happens, right? But how quickly everything changes. Now Leon is one of the longest reigning champions in the UFC, which is actually shocking. And then you look at his skill. I mean, he's a very skilled fighter, no doubt about it. But Does he blow people out of the water? I mean, oftentimes not. He's having close fights. He needs a comeback, Hail Mary victory in round 5. I'm happy we cashed a ticket. The plus 300, the plus 450 ITD, cashed them all, right? Nothing better. I've been on the greatest round 5 sweats in UFC history. I had Yuri, and he wins in round 5 against Glover. I had Leon when he won in round 5. So I've been on those high mountaintops, but also I had my guy Sean Brady, grit and guillotines, when he got absolutely boxed to bits by Bilal Muhammad in the desert. So I think that you look at Bilal Muhammad's ascension and you say to yourself, okay, the guy is very good at winning fights. He's done it as an underdog throughout his career because nobody ever expects him to win fights. He doesn't have skills to jump off the page like, oh my God, did you remember that knockout? You don't show the highlight finishes from Bilal and say, wow, this guy's put together this insane highlight reel. But he just has had a consistency of winning, taking rounds off people, taking people down, winning control positions, outlanding people on the numbers. And has the quality of competition been there the whole time? No. I mean, Diego Lima, you don't really have much to say about that. But when you look at how Bilal has fared, he's done everything that's been asked of him, and he's done it well, right? The Gilbert Burns fight wasn't particularly close. Everybody said before that fight, this is going to play out so close. I know he got injured in that fight, but how? He went for a takedown, and he got hurt in the course of the fight. We're fighting. It's the not getting hurt business. And Bilal Muhammad, has been clipped a handful of times in his career. But even when he got clipped against Leon in the first fight, he didn't look for a way out. He didn't want to quit until he got poked with all this all into his eye. And you can look back and see like literal finger in eye contact. It's disgusting, right? It's a terrible eye poke. It's incidental. It happens, right? It's fighting. But now we look in and we say to ourselves, we've got a fresh slate. Everybody in the world couldn't be higher on Leon than they are right now. He's coming off of a ton of title wins. The line is showing the same as it was the last time these two guys fought. Look at the Blades and Aspinall fight. Just as comparison, we don't have to talk about that fight, but look at how much that line has changed in the intervening period, right? Whereas this line has stayed much the same, if not gotten a little bit closer on the side of the challenger. So for me, that's enough to say, hey, listen, I've lost enough money fading Bilal Muhammad. I'm not going to do that. I liked making all the money with Leon Edwards when he was an underdog and disrespected. That opportunity has come and passed. So for me, it does feel like a dog or pass situation. Right now, I'm leaning towards passing. I do think on the cards, Bilal Muhammad might not get a fair shake. That's probably where he has to take this fight more often than not. But the one thing I will point out is Colby Covington, who I do not rate as high as a lot of the market and a lot of analysts. I think he's a fine fighter. I think he's well past his prime. And honestly, he didn't have that much finishing equity of his own right. But he had some good positions. He had some good situations late. He just couldn't make Leon pay. He doesn't do that much damage. He doesn't have great submissions. And I think that for Bilal Muhammad, maybe you could say some of those same things are true. But in terms of the work rate, it's typically a little bit higher. And I don't think he's going to concede as many positions. I mean, Colby Covington had so many title opportunities that he flushed down the toilet. And then you look at a guy like Bilal Muhammad, he knows he's getting one. So it's like whatever Bilal Muhammad can put forward in terms of effort, energy, intensity, it's all coming down one night for his life. And so I'm not betting against that guy personally. But I do think that he might get knocked out. I mean, we did see Leon Edwards can land good shots on him. He's a cleaner striker, but it's not all about technique. It's about fighting, right? And Bilal Muhammad, for as boring as some people may find him, is a very effective fighter. He's plus 200. When I talk about elite matchups, I can't really get behind huge prices, huge chalk favorites in elite matchups. And I do think that for all the hate he gets, Bilal Muhammad is an elite fighter.
VB, it was the start of the second round when that Edwards eye poke happened. Did kind of snap the win streak there, but still was just no contest. But what happened? What do you think in that first round, if you can remember back that far? And like I posed to Liam, is this a continuation or are we starting anew?
Yeah, I mean, Liam mentioned some very interesting points. Bilal Muhammad is, for me, also like hard fighter to go up. You know what I mean? I thought also he was gonna lose to Luque. Similar to you. I thought, Sean Brady's fight, I actually realized, he was going to win that fight because of Brady's cardio. Again, then I bet Gilbert Burns against him last fight. You know what I mean? Gilbert Burns was injured in that fight. He loses decision. Of course. I mean, it's Bella. So, here's the thing. I don't know. First fight, I watched the fight, right? First fight, I see the fight, and I see Bilal Muhammad trying everything in his power to get a takedown, to make it close, to get a clinch. and not even one freaking takedown was completed by Belal Muhammad. You know what I mean? For me, it's hard to say that okay, this guy in second fight, couple years later, is gonna be so much better than an active champion. That he's gonna get so many takedowns. He's gonna control Liam for 25 minutes and win a decision in this fight. Like, I just don't see him controlling fight for 25 minutes. I don't see him out. I don't see him out striking Leon at distance. Last fight, again, he couldn't even complete one takedown in that fight. So what really tells you he can get it here? I know he got better. I know he trains with Khabib and all this stuff, but this is all still noise. So like sometimes it can be also like dangerous like mindset to see, oh, if the first fight was this easy, the second fight is also gonna be this easy for Leon. That can be wrong. Like for example, back in like a couple of years ago, I bet Alex Pereira against Israel Adesanya, right? Alex Pereira stopped Israel Adesanya in round one. In the second fight, I max bet Israel Adesanya. You know why? Because Israel Adesanya showed the path. Israel Adesanya almost had Alex Pereira unconscious in round one in the first fight. What happens in second fight? Same right hand knocks Alex Pereira out cold. You know what I mean? So Israel Adesanya showed he can get a takedown, he can land an overhand, he can get a knockout. There's a path to him. You know what I mean? What did Belal Muhammad show in the first fight besides getting pieced up, getting wobbled with head kick, and completing zero takedowns? I just don't see a path for him. It's hard to sell me on a 25 minute control in 2024. It's just not easy to do. You know what I mean? And judges favor damage, so it's like I just don't see him doing that. And the line is also like probably accurate. You have Leon Edwards minus 250, 70% almost or whatever, right? It's like, is there still a value? Usually when two top 10 fights, like usually you want to be on the dog. You know what I mean? So like a couple of weeks ago, like I bet Volkov, for example, against Pavlovich, two heavyweights, both top five. For me, it was five easy decision to hammer Volkov there. I mean, it's already a heavyweight plus his top five. I mean, easy. But in this fight, like for the first fight, in this fight, like I don't know, I just don't see it. First fight showed me a lot. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Belal is that much better right now that he can get it done. But at the same time, I saw Belal not finishing a guy with one arm, last fight. So I don't know. I'm gonna take Leon here to, win in his country, and I think he's gonna probably get a few more wins in this division until he fights Shavkat Rakhmonov. So that's gonna be that, and yeah, just first fight too much info in my opinion. If he even complete one takedown, and Liam, don't forget that was in Apex too. He had all the chance to get a takedown in Apex, couldn't get one. It's not like
the one thing I will say is I believe Belal Muhammad is on new steroids.
Okay. Yep.
Nobody sue me. It's all love here, especially if you go out there and do your thing, whatever it takes. But it's like when I'm looking at Belal, that is the one thing I think has changed is he physically just looks like a different guy. Like he's 36 and he's aging in reverse, like he's Benjamin Button. You know what I'm saying? So God bless him for it, right? It's a competitive enterprise. But I think in the last 14 months that he hasn't been fighting, he's been nothing short of a science experiment.
Yeah, I mean that definitely looks very, very jacked. Yeah. I mean, Leon is looking pretty jacked too, Liam, no? Like, Leon Edwards looked in crazy shape.
Leon has always looked in incredible shape, I feel. Like, he has a great physique. And, I mean, he's a phenomenal winner in his own right. Nobody ever make a mistake that I'm not a Leon Edwards guy, but I've seen him on the disrespect ladder, and you got to look back at the fact, like, Nate Diaz, what is he known for, guys? Not his power punching, not his ability to go out there and knock people out. And he was putting this guy on ice skates because he lost focus a little bit late in the fight. We've seen that as like a recurring theme from Leon. Start out strong and then kind of just lose focus a little bit for portions of the fight. His coach is like telling him, hey, bro, we got 4 minutes left. Like, if we don't win this fight, it's all over. Your dream's gone. So he's kind of gone out there and found those rallies, those moments in the past. And I just worry, like, I got ADHD. I'll come clean, right? What if my man just goes out there and he's like doing well for 2 rounds? He just starts losing focus. Because we've seen that from him in the past. And I just think of a guy like Belal, he's a very dogged competitor. If you don't put him away, if you don't kill the man, like literally put him in the box like Luque, he's just going to stay on you and make it a dogfight. And I can say personally from my life experience, right, competing, the last guy you want to compete against is the guy who just wants to go all day, who wants to stay in your face, Julian Erosa, right? I think C-Rod broke mentally in the first round. If you're asking me my opinion, what happened there? Because honestly, guys, he knows how to defend a guillotine. He didn't flat back himself. There was nothing he did, to try and he was not liking the pressure. He was uncomfortable in the fight. He tried to get to a more comfortable situation. He couldn't, and that was the end of the fight, right? That's breaking mentally. That's having an uncomfortable experience. Julian Erosa kept telling him, hey, you're hitting me. It doesn't bother me. I'm still here. I'm happy about it. And you're going to have to deal with me all night. That will break you mentally. And for a guy like Leon, he's going to have success, I feel like, in this fight early. He's going to land a lot of shots. And maybe that is just, 7 minutes of destruction. But I just feel the longer the fight goes, Bilal Muhammad is this kind of guy who just has an undeniable kind of quality to him. So that for me is the thing that I feel he brings to the table, just a dogged competitor. But skill for skill, I agree with you. Leon's the better guy. He should be a favorite in this fight. I think it's a question of degree. How much of a favorite should he be?
You mentioned a lot of things. One thing you didn't mention is the first fight. What you make of the first fight, and what you think it matters in this fight?
I think that it's a very small sample. Because the other thing I'll mention is, like, how many times have we seen a guy go out there and lose a fight, like get smoked in the first round or something, then they have a rematch and he wins the fight. It's like, it's just a weird sport where sometimes things happen, right? Sometimes you have an off night, a shitty night, right? Maybe he got eye poked one time, then got kicked, then he gets eye poked again and the fight falls apart. I can't even remember off the top of my head, but it's just like, if you're having a bad night at the office, that can happen. And then you come back and win. And in that case, right, neither guy got a definitive result. Honestly, Leon in the car after, he's crying, he's calling his mom, he's devastated. It was like a emotionally tough fight for him. So now he's got to go back and open that up, revisit that. It's like both these guys have a lot to, gain and lose from this fight. And I do think, for Leon, he's got a lot of credibility off, hey, I hit this guy really hard and whatever, but there was no conclusion to the fight. And I think that for Bilal's confidence, like, some guys have to own the fact, like, think of Michael Bisping and Dan Henderson. This guy knocked me unconscious badly in front of everybody. I can't let that happen again. And you saw that timidity at times in the fight. You saw, like, the gears turning for Michael Bisping when he was fighting him. And I do think that there's some shades of that in this fight as well, where, for Leon, he knows he could take this guy out, but he's also like, man, do I open the tank up too much too early? Do I keep a more measured pace? And sometimes you could let a fight pass you by like that. So I think it's a very interesting fight psychologically for both these guys to revisit.
VB, two guys that definitely 75% of the more fights go the distance, and Edwards has that edge of fighting in his own country. What would this line is that built into a line like this, or is it also a factor that maybe in 5 rounds here? Look, I mean, to go the distance is minus 200. Can you accumulate more points that way? And is that part of the advantage of being minus 250? Because alluding to what Liam said, to me, if a fight goes to the cards, that does open up to a little bit more variance.
Yeah, we are going deep on this one, huh? I mean, this show is long. So listen, here's the thing, Raymer, with that. Bilal Muhammad is pretty bad at 2 things. His leg kick defense is not good. Like, he got his leg chewed up by Diego Lima in one of those fights. I watched it today. And he also gets hit with a combination at the end of the combination. 1, 2, and 3. Usually, like, Luke knocked him out with that, So Leon doesn't really throw, like, too many combinations with his hands. He usually ends with a kick or body kick or knee or something. So, like, I can see if Bilal is trying to push him against the cage and grind him, I can see Leon slowing down potentially. But also, like, if it's against the clinch, who's gonna do more damage? It's gonna be Edwards, So I can see a fight where it's super boring. Actually, the Bilal is the one kind of, like, quote unquote controlling the fight, but Leon is still landing, like, bigger strikes. He's still landing big knees. Bilal's belly is probably gonna be, like, red, So, like, I just think that Edwards is gonna do more damage, and for me, it's kind of tough sell to control somebody for 25 minutes. Not just somebody, the world champion, So I'm gonna take Leon as it's like 70%, 72, whatever it is, like minus 250. So, like, it's just, right now probably accurate. I just want to bet it. I don't want to parlay Leon. I don't want to, really fade Bilal either. Guy hasn't lost a fight in 10 years or something. So I don't want to fade him either. I'll just watch it as a fan and I'll see where it goes. But I will agree with Leon that usually in this kind of fights, like two top level fighters usually want to be on the dog more than on the favorite. But personally, I just got first fight pretty heavy, and fact that Leon, did everything he wanted in the first fight, and Belal. Some people think Belal wanted way out. I don't think so. I think it's a silliness, but you know, overall, I think first fight matters a lot. And I usually bet the other side if I see a path for them. Like Davidson Figueiredo, I bet him. You know why? Because like he won a couple rounds. Brandon Moreno, same. They fought. It was close. Whoever was like plus 400 probably was the side in those fights. You know what I mean? It was always competitive. Adesanya, he was up 3-1. He almost knocked him out. Right in the second fight, line is close. I had to take Adesanya. He knocked him out unconscious. One of the most brutal knockouts Adesanya ever had probably. So I don't see a path here. Like I watched the first fight, Belal Muhammad couldn't complete a single takedown. I just can't take him here. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe Liam is spot on with the new physique Belal is showing, which is pretty crazy physique. So yeah, I'm gonna be probably regretting it. But because usually I also like to bet on the underdog if it's an elite fight. You know what I mean? But first fight, I watched it again. Leon did everything he wanted, and now he's in his host. Now it's in his hometown. If it's close, it's probably Leon. Some kind of.
Well, then 250 is not good if it's close, right?
Yeah, no, but is it gonna be close? Leon has a finishing upside in this fight. You know what I mean? Has Belal Muhammad finished anybody besides Sean Brady in the UFC? I can't remember. Maybe some. Maybe
I think he submitted Takashi Sato back in the day, which is ironic because Gunnar Nelson and a couple other guys couldn't. But
you know what's crazy? He lost round 1 in the fight too. It took Takashi Sato. That's or something like that. I don't remember round 1 or 2. It was 1-1.
Takashi Sato.
Yeah, I could be wrong. But...
Somebody wake him up. See how he's.
Well, good thing the UFC, VB, you're here to pick the fights. Liam picks fights. Good thing you guys aren't here to promote them, calling it going to be a boring fight, but we'll see on Saturday night. VB, you want to take us out of here with Liam? I was going to ask you about the rule changes that came down today, but maybe they're insignificant, and I don't want to take too much of your time, but if you guys have anything on that.
Yeah, I don't know if the rule changes. You mean 12-6, right? I don't know if that's in effect in Vegas only right now, or in certain states, or everywhere. I'm pretty sure it's not gonna be in every country, every state. You know what I mean? So right now it's probably not a significant thing, but it's.
Was that coming? That story just broke a couple hours ago. Was that something that you guys knew was coming or being discussed? It was obviously
I had no idea.
Controversial rule, and of course we can't go back now and give John Jones a win now or anything because of that. But we know maybe why that was a key point made. I'm sure.
Yeah, I think it's.
This is coming into effect in October. I'm not positive about that, but I believe that was the plan. And I think that they had been planning to vote on this for a little while. The Association of Boxing Commissions, or whatever the heck the alphabet organization is that oversees all of fighting in the U.S., they had been proposing these rule changes for a while. And I do think, November 1st. George always knows, man. He's always on point. Good stuff.
Yeah, I don't think it matters. I think 12-6 rule is kind of silly in my opinion. So I'm glad the fighters can't do this.
Tatsuro Taira just leveled up his ground and pound by 500%.
Yeah, so
this was a talking point too. I want to get us out of here, VB, but this is a talking point that a lot of people were having last week on X, or at least during the card last week.
I mean, what are you talking? Like last week, people got knocked. Like Hideo Amil got a standing knockout. Like so many people got knocked out last week. So I don't think Neil Galal's mean anything personally, but whatever.
Take us home then.
Never talked about a fight I didn't bet for so long, Liam. So thank you for joining. It was fun.
I'm a loquacious individual. I kissed the Blarney Stone, VB. I got the gift of the gab, my brother. You know that. We're representing for Europe this week.
Yeah, let's go.
I'd like to hang out with VB over on PSR. You guys can get involved too. You can get in a contest with me each week. Liam, I have a problem. I listen to VB. I get some great picks, so I'm always up there, man. I'm always near the top. I just can't break through with that victory. Maybe it's that one fight where I sometimes go against VB. I don't know, but I'm going to get there.
Absolutely. It just takes time, my brother.
Go ahead and
Well,
go ahead.
I
Liam.
got you, my man. So, and if you're looking for anything more from me, guys, in about an hour, 2 hours at the tops, you'll be seeing me going live for my first look. So, on my first look show, I'm normally a little bit less prepared, right? I come out, I give you guys my thoughts, I talk through all the fights, I give a couple different angles, and then on Thursday, later in the week, I come back with bets and banter, a little bit more ironed out, fleshed out for you guys. So, if you're interested in that kind of content, come on down. We talk about all the fights. God bless you all. Good luck with your bets, and I appreciate the time.
Thanks a lot, Liam. Thank you, VB.
Thank you. Thank
All
you,
right.
guys. Liam, again, always fun to have you. We got to do it again for next pay-per-view maybe. So, yeah, I'll hit you up, and everybody good luck. Let's make some money.
Catch you next time for more VB MMA picks.